Hello everybody, my name is Braden Deal. I'm a film composer, and today I'm going to show you just a quick tip. I'm going to call these videos Help Your Future Self. And basically the idea behind it is ideas or tips or techniques that can save you in the future should things go awry technology-wise, according to all kinds of stuff. But my system, my computer, my software, for those of us who work in this kind of environment, this is the work. This is how things happen. And if something's not working as it's supposed to, it can be really bad for not just, getting from point A to point B as far as your job, but inhibiting creativity, flow, quote unquote, all that kind of stuff. Bumps in the road, right? We want to minimize as few of those as possible. And sometimes things with technology go not the way you would like. And it's good to, prepare or hope for the best, plan for the worst kind of thing. And I've started to do much more planning for the worst and trying to, just like I said, help my future self such that should I get in a situation where shit hits the fan later on, I am prepared and I'm able to, have steps at the ready to where I can sort of, address the issue. So anyway, that said, this is a quick one, but a important one. And that is creating a backup of your important software related documents and files. So I use Cubase as my digital audio workstation, but within Cubase, as I'm sure you all do, you use different plugins, and sometimes you create custom presets for those plugins as you go along. You use different software and different instruments, virtual instruments. Maybe you create some customizations and then you save those presets, all kinds of things. Or sometimes Cubase may just crash and erase your personal user settings. It actually happened to me a short while after, I'd say maybe about a month or two. I was utilizing this technique about a month or two, and then Cubase crashed. And sometimes if Cubase crashes, Cubase crashes every once in a while, even less so on me now, frankly, that I'm on an offline system, which maybe I'll talk about in the future at some point. But Cubase crashes occasionally, and 99% of the time I have no problems. But on one particular occasion, Cubase crashed in such a way that it didn't remember my presets. I had customized key commands, arranged things in the settings and just in the Cubase window the way I like. When I brought it back up again after the crash, after a restart, it didn't have my settings, and this saved my butt in that situation. And this saved my ass in that situation. So let me just go over real quick some of the things I do. But basically, as you can see in my documents here on my PC, I have a Braden Deal Music documents folder, and I have a Cubase software or composer software backups folder. And in this, and just the other day actually, I started, because there are so many things I was backing up, getting a little bit more organized in here. But essentially what I do is I take all those files and folders and documents that I'm referring to, things that if things crashed or there was a problem with something, and if everything was erased tomorrow, these are the things I would need to reinstate as soon as possible in order to get back up and running again. And I also have this little, as you can see, I created this little dummy folder just to kind of put up top here. So at any stage, if I make significant enough changes to my settings, related to any of these things, I come over here to my, Finder, File Explorer in Windows 10. And I have all these linked here. I have all these pinned where they are in my documents on my PC. So I can come in here and I know this is where you start, and I start with Cubase 12 _64. And I'll show you what all these are individually and why I've chosen these, but I'll come here to the very first one, and then I'll go back a step so that I can kind of click on this and, Control C, copy. And then I'll go into here, and now I would just paste, but now I've created subfolders, so I would have to go to the Cubase, but there it is. That is where the previous version would have been, or the copy, the previous backup. And I would just Control V, paste, and hit yes, I want to overwrite. And basically, there you go. Now I've backed up this here. And, as far as backups go, something I've learned is that, because you may be asking, well, can't you just back up to like a hard drive or something? And yes, you can. But a couple things. A, when it comes to this kind of stuff, redundancy as much as possible. You cannot have too much redundancy. You cannot have too much, like having a backup of a backup of a backup is not overkill. Sometimes, it may sound like it to some, but if that's the thing that saves your ass in the situation, then, who cares? So redundancy is great. Also, depending on how you're backing up, incremental versus whatever, there are, you can look up all the different types of backups, but depending on how you're backing up, your settings might be overwritten. But it's just nice to have, a backup of the backup, and it's on the PC and it's easily accessible. And in that situation where a Cubase crashed, let's use this as an example before I kind of go through the rundown here. You can see there's the Cubase folder. There's also these other Steinberg ones that's Cubase related. I'll get into what those are. But basically, I went into my backups after Cubase had crashed and then rebooted and had erased my settings. And then in reverse, I copied, went back, pasted, overwritten the actual. So this is the actual Cubase settings that Cubase, when I launched the program on my PC, it draws from. I pasted over what had happened in the reboot so that my backup was reinstalled, closed Cubase, restarted the system, booted up Cubase, worked just like it had before the crash. So ideal situation. So it worked. I got to, you hope this shit never happens, but it did, and I tested it and it worked, and that's, saved me a bunch of heartache in that situation. So that's what you want. So that's what is going on here. So what am I backing up? I'm backing up the Cubase 12 64-bit folder, which can be found. You'll be able to see if you just look up here on my File Explorer window. You'll be able to see all of these. But this is most of the nuts and bolts of Cubase. You've got some presets here. I always have a difficult time remembering off the top of my head, but there are some, as you can see here, key commands, user preferences. Some of that is being stored here. And this is, like I said, this is the nuts and bolts of when you boot up the Cubase program on your computer. This is where it's going to draw from. Apologies to Mac users. Actually, I will link. There's oh no, he's on Windows too. Sorry. You can Google, or just open, Mac, your Mac Finder window and hit search and try to search for all of this. And you can find it. People have located it on the internet. You can do some scouring. Sorry, I can't show both here, but you can find where this is. For Windows users, this is where it's located in app data roaming Steinberg. And I'm not backing up the whole Steinberg folder just because, frankly, I don't need to back up all this stuff. I just want my precious Cubase information. I'm backing up my templates, any templates I should develop in my notation software of choice, which is MuseScore version 3, apparently. That's found in my documents. MuseScore is free notation software, and I'm not a orchestrator, so take this with a grain of salt, but I've used Sibelius previously, which is like $600-700, one of the top notation softwares in the entire world. And this works great and does a lot of, in terms of the nuts and bolts, maybe there's some like really, really, really specific specialized stuff that it can't do. Although I'd be surprised because, it's open source and they have a thriving community of people who use it. and people who just improve upon it over time as it goes, due to feedback and whatnot. Anyway, it's a great, I've really enjoyed using that. And so I back up my template because I want to be able to have the same starting space. That's a really minor one, but I like to do it nonetheless. I'm backing up. Native Instruments is a huge, for those of you who use it, extremely popular, extremely fantastic products from them. And Contact. I mean, everyone, if you use anything from Native Instruments, you're using Contact, at least in some capacity, because it's, to my knowledge, the most popular sampler out there right now. And so I'm backing up in the documents my Native Instruments data, especially here in the user content. You can see for specific instruments for specific programs. This is what I was referencing earlier. I've gone in, and some of these are custom instruments. Maybe I started with a preset and then modified some and then changed it to something that sounded unique to what I was looking for, and then saved that as preset because it was for a project. As you can see, this is for a film called Hierarchy that I did. I made some presets on Ethereal Earth 2.0, and so maybe I really like that sound, and I'm working on a future project, and I'm like, oh, that sound from Hierarchy that'd work well here. I'd want to be able to go and get that, and so I back this up for that reason. That's your Native Instruments folder in Documents. Cubase profiles, this is in Steinberg's application files, Cubase, and profile. That's pretty self-explanatory. And as you can see, I backed this up a while ago, and I'll make another video about this. I always include the date, so it's easy to find the latest backups of the Cubase profile, Google Cubase Profile Manager for those. Maybe I'll make a video about that at some point, but that's basically saves all your settings so that if you could export this profile, take it to another Cubase system, and then activate it, and there you go. You could use all your settings. I wouldn't necessarily be in that situation, but backing up just because. I'm backing up my quick load folders for Contact, which are located here. Make note of that. And Contact 7 now that I upgraded to that recently, and I'm starting to integrate that into my system. And the quick load, for those of you who don't know, are just other, when you have Contact loaded up. Well, actually, I can just boot up Contact real quick. You've got Contact loaded up. You've got your libraries over here. It lists those to the side, but there are some that are not available in this format, which you access via the quick load down here. And I've got lots of those. Don't want to lose that information. And also, it was really easy when I got Contact 7. It didn't have all of my libraries in the quick load that I had for Contact, but I just went here, copied that, went to Contact 7's quick load, pasted, and voila, there you go. It was already there. So another advantage here. I am backing up documents, the Steinberg folder in my documents, no surprise there. And a really obvious example of why to do that is my effects chain presets. I'm working on organizing these a bit better, but I will make another video on this, but I save lots of effects chain presets for efficiency and do not want to lose those. And so once I better organize these, I'll make another video about this at some point. But so that's what's being saved there. Library Manager folder within Steinberg, which has key commands and user preferences. Some versions of that saved there. And then finally, I back up the VST3 presets folder in my documents folder. And another, pretty obvious one, similar to the instruments, thing from Native Instruments that I, had exemplified previously. If I am tweaking well, let's just look at, I know I'll have a lot for this. I use the Seventh Heaven from Liquid Sonics as a effects send for a lot of my orchestral stuff. And I've got a lot of the settings saved. And for, the winds short, I might have a different setting for the winds long. And it would be terrible to lose all of this and then have to dial all of that back in again, like the exact settings that I was, what kind of hall and what kind of whatever that I was using for. And for all these plugins, plugins and processing are a big part of what we do to varying degrees depending on the project. But you're almost always going to use a variety of plugins in a project, especially if you want it to sound as professional quality as possible. So I'm backing up all of that. And like I said, I've got these in, there's a Native Instruments folder, a Windows folder for the VST3s, MusicWorks, Cubase, and I'm going to add more as I go. Now, a couple other things to note here. I've also got, I'm also backing up in Cubase. Let's see if I can show it here. In my plugin manager, if you open your plugin manager and click plugin report, you can save your plugin report. And basically that saves a lot of this information in the plugin manager in Cubase. And I like to do that as well. So I save those here. There's one I did the other day. This is kind of an older one. So I will toss that. Don't need it anymore. And I'll have a text document here about just basically if I forget a particular technique or if there's a way of, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said earlier, you just kind of go and copy and paste to, roll back, so to speak, your settings to the way they were. But if I ever forget or there's like a really specific a way to do something that I might forget, so specific I might, if I don't write it down, I might forget. I have a text document here where I keep notes on that. Write yourself, especially if you're someone like me who has a terrible memory, write yourself just a stupid amount of notes. That's what I try to do when I write notes. And I'll make future videos on this at some point, but I write notes on how to do everything, every aspect of my job, of my workflow. I notate out everything and I write it out as if I'm stupid or as if someone who I need to accomplish all of those things is stupid, and just, make it as easy to understand as possible, like, insultingly easy, because, saving your ass in that situation, helping your future self. That's what it's all about. And that is, you write a super detailed note on something. You'll never have to I used to figure out, troubleshoot things, figure out how to do it, not make a note on how to do it. And then a year would go by, the problem would rear its ugly head again, and I would have totally forgotten, and I had to relearn all again. No more. Ain't nobody got time for that. Make a dumb amount of notes, and then all you have to do, it takes time to write the note, but after you do, you go back, look at it, problem solved. And then the last thing I have here are just the file paths for, in case I lose these in the, because I pin those here so that I can easily access them. But if I were, to lose them at some point, I can just, boot up my screenshot here. There it is. And, oh, there it is. Go there. Done deal. Just making notes about that. I also have, because I'm using OBS for screen recording, I'm just noticing here, I just made note yesterday of my settings for that, so I can recall those. So anyway, Composer software backups. There you go. Help your future self. I will be making more of these in the future, so subscribe if you're interested in that. And thanks for watching.